All right. Unfortunately, we don't have music going on.
That's
It's all right.
okay. It's
I was
fine.
also on the
It is what
wrong
it is.
screen. There's life's a mess right now, and so is this podcast. Um, it's just it's just how it is. I mean, Jake's camera is freezing every 5 seconds.
Oh gosh, dang
It's
it.
just a disaster of an episode right off the bat, and honestly, that's fitting for how my team has been performing.
It's fitting for just football thus far.
It's been I I was able to win this last week,
I saw that.
handily.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have zero confidence in my team to ever perform in a week, and I will not ever depend on them to actually do as they're supposed to do. That's I've given up.
I think that's probably a good just fantasy mindset to have is to never fully expect anyone to do what you expect them to do. Maybe a few, but for the most part, yeah, that's that's the life we chose.
I guess. I guess.
Having ambiguity.
Yeah. I mean, like I I guess I need to accept that. I need to come to terms with fantasy football and the unpredictability that it is, and that you can't count on anything.
Just like you can't count on Winston to throw 5 touchdowns every game.
No, I'm still hopeful though. You know, still a
I
little
mean,
piece of me is saying he's my one player that I will play based off of matchups.
I think that's a great. I mean, you don't throw in the towel on anyone yet.
Yeah,
Best Winston. I mean, that's when he thrives. But it just goes to show. You're gonna have Winston losing early or winning early, and then it's gonna probably might have lost you a game. Didn't for you, but in general, in the fantasy sphere. But then you got your Aaron Rodgers bouncing back. You got your Aaron Joneses bouncing back. Not so
Derrick
much
Henry.
Devontae Adams, but Henry bouncing back. I'm still gonna kind of stick with my not sold yet, not finishing top five. Already bringing the hot takes right here, right in the
Right?
beginning.
Yeah, right away.
Still saying confidently not a top five running back at the end of the year.
You know, I'm with you on that one. I'm gonna adjust my microphone. Freddie, thank you for the follow on Twitch. I don't
Right?
think that I agree with you. I don't think Henry is that solid. I think that game in general, just as a Sounder or not Sounders, a Seahawks fan, uh, was just hard to watch. They seemed so
Mhm.
strong in the second half. They just got walked all over. Well, ran all over. He wasn't walking so
Yeah,
much. He was definitely running all over them.
just the Titans don't like scare me enough for him to scare me. But they're good. Like I'm okay. I'm scared of the Titans. Like uh, they're gonna beat the Colts next week, so I'm obviously they're a good team. But I just don't think it's all put together yet to where it. I mean, their team stayed the same, and in theory, he should be just as good. But
Their
time's catching up.
their team arguably
Those miles are running.
got better
Yes,
with
their team's better.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You'd think that it can't stack the box because Jones is in, but it's in the stars. It's not gonna line up the same for him. It just can't. It's
I
not. It's not gonna. Guaranteed.
guarantee. So what you're saying right now is guaranteed. Derrick Henry out of the top five.
Out of top five. End of the year. He'll come talk to me when he has a couple good games. Week 8, week 9, and I'll say, yeah, cool.
I
There's
think
been
we
a
need
lot
to
of people
have
who've done that.
I think we need to have a running list of hot takes to revisit. You know,
Like this.
yeah, like this one. Jake says Henry won't finish top 5. It's bold prediction.
Bold prediction. Say slap a date on it, but I said that at least last week.
You definitely did also say that last week. I think we should chat through a few headlines.
Absolutely.
To start, I wanted to talk through. Have you watched any of the things from the Manning cast?
No, I once again missed it. So it's every Monday, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Be every Monday night.
I can't say with 100% certainty, but I am fairly positive that that is the schedule.
Okay. No, but and I've even heard less about this one this week than last week. So was it as good as last week's?
I didn't watch the full version last week, so I have little to compare it to outside of the highlights. But I did watch it this week, and I so thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it is absolutely fun to listen to them, and they had 4 different guests. So like Gronkowski was on, so they're having current players still coming on, and it is just
Which is wild.
It's so funny to watch, and you also just get some like different perspectives. And nothing against NFL commentators. Oftentimes I don't necessarily listen to what they're saying, so I having something to actually listen to is kind of like listening to a live podcast. So it was quite fun. Gronkowski says that he does not watch film.
I saw that,
and
because Brait came up to him and said, "Hey, do you watch like film or something along those lines?" And he just straight up was like, "No, no, man, I don't watch film."
Yeah.
No.
He also says that he skips. I can't remember if it's Thursday or Friday practice because it's red zone day, and he's red zone Robbie G. So why would he come to practice that day? I think that's
what's red zone Robbie G?
Well, Rob Gronkowski. So he's getting touchdowns in the red zone. If they're in the red zone, he's gonna score. He doesn't need to be there for practice for it.
Oh, I thought he was like, you were saying he was watching Red Zone or did something for Red Zone.
No,
Okay,
no.
okay.
He
Just because I'm Rob Gronkowski, I don't have to.
Yeah.
Which is very fair.
He calls himself Red Zone Robbie G. So
you can, if you're doing, he deserves to be able to give himself a nickname 100%.
Yeah. Do you think that Gronkowski is outperforming what he will for the rest of the season, or are you buying in? Are you all in on Gronkowski being a top 2, top 3 tight end for the rest of the year?
No, but I bet he definitely finishes like higher than what he was like drafted at. Like he might have been overdrafted, but what ranking was he opening the season? Like 14? I think he was above like the top, but low of the top half. And I mean, he's not gonna score 2 every week, but one, Tom Brady just is. It was said all last year. It might be true. He might be actually getting better. It's kind of ridiculous, and he looks like he wants to hit him. There was plays where he was wide open, and Tom Brady didn't even throw it to him, and like the dude can still get open.
Yeah.
He's still really good.
I'm pretty sure that this is pre-draft, and he was ranked the 17th tight end.
Yeah. Like you could maybe cut that in half. He might go up there.
Finish top 10. You are higher than top 10.
I'd say top 10, top like 8 even maybe.
Yeah. He
Carrying injury. That's the thing though, because he seems like he always gets a little banged up like mid-season, and he'll take a little bit of it off, and then kind of towards those last few games kind of be okay, and then he'll probably score like the playoffs 8 touchdowns.
Yeah. So if you were to go based purely off of the ranking systems, they would have had Gronkowski being drafted in the 11th round.
Yeah.
And he so far has been winning games for his fantasy owners. So
Like, where does he? And you may not have it handy in front of you, but like, is he a top 3 tight end right now? I could only. I mean, maybe number 1.
so right
Not
now,
yards, probably.
yeah. So right now he is. Just give me 1 second
Probably most
to pull it up.
touchdowns of a tight end.
He is 1 point off of Kelsey.
Like fantasy points.
Yeah, one fantasy point off of Kelsey.
So he's number 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, week 2 can't do wild yet with the claims. Besides, Derrick Henry's not finished in the top 5, but yeah, that was a wild miss for a lot of people, including myself in quite a few leagues.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah. He. To be honest, I thought I feel like he's gonna be some weeks high points, some weeks low points. I think it's gonna depend. Like I've said, I think that it's very situational with Tampa Bay wide receivers and tight ends. It'll be based really on matchups. I mean, I think we saw that week 1, Antonio Brown had huge volume and was catching anything thrown his way, scoring touchdowns. Gronkowski as well had a huge game. Evans was almost invisible. You go to week 2, Evans now has a big game. He's doing well. Gronkowski still performed well. Antonio Brown had, I think, 3 fantasy points in a PPR league. So, it's not. I just really think that you can't depend on the Tampa Bay receiving core to always be scoring points for you. But I do think that he's going to have big weeks and probably lighter weeks.
I mean, their whole offense as a whole is like we're playing the hot hand. I mean, it's who's in the groove, who's getting open. I mean, that sounds really stupid, but like whichever one of those receivers is feeling it that day is obviously who's going to get it. We've seen it with, and we know Godwin did it plenty last year, and then Evans did it this week. The only thing that maybe puts him up ahead is that, I mean, he's definitely like the dude at tight end versus
having 3.
the 3 wide receivers, and even with the running backs, it's we hear Jones is going to be the guy, but then it seems like Fournette's kind of the one who putting his foot in the ground. So maybe it just turns to Fournette ends up being the dude, but at least the bromance is there. He loves like his guy Rob, so
yeah.
But I agree. I mean, be not that every week, obviously, but it's going to be highs and lows. I agree with you there, but I think he might even be more consistent than he has been like last year in the past, because I don't think he was on even as many rosters as he's going to be this year in fantasy.
Yeah. There's I'm trying to see if I can find it quickly. But there was this really pretty cool chart. I think it was in the NFL sub of all of the people that Brady has thrown a touchdown to, and it had them like ranked. And I want to say, I might be wrong, but I want to say Gronkowski's number 1.
Probably. I think this week or last week he like just passed Marvin Harrison and Peyton Manning for most touchdowns between 2 players.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't number 1, but they were like people who were in the hundreds, and I'm pretty sure Brady and Gronk are over 100.
Yeah. The other thing that was shocking about that list was some of the players that were on it. So like, defensive players that he's like, they did plays for him to throw touchdowns to.
Oh,
And it's like, 10. to one guy that's on the defensive side.
I can picture them doing like the tackle rolls out, so a few offensive linemen are on there, or like
Yeah,
Donateri Poe for Chiefs has done it a few times. So,
yeah.
okay, okay.
It's it. I don't think I'll be able to find it, but it was such an interesting chart to look at and um, see who he's thrown to. Some other things. You've got a lot of quarterbacks that went down last week. Some of them are still going to be out. Tua's out. Fields is going to be starting in Chicago.
Vastly
Tyrod,
beat our prediction there
Tyrod, yeah,
due to
again,
injury, but yeah, might have
yeah,
been inevitable anyway.
yeah. Tyrod Taylor going down. Um, there were a few others that were
My,
out in the
my boy
game and then came
Wentz.
back. Wentz is out, yeah,
Mhm.
but I believe Carr and Mayfield both went down in game and then came back. There's just a lot of injuries. Um,
Yeah,
it seems like more than normal.
feels that way, and I wonder if it's just because luck of the draw. It's the bigger name players versus those those offensive linemen that are the not highly ranked, and we don't hear about it, or defensive players, we don't hear about it. But it does feel like a lot, and I mean, the Ravens, they're relevant, they're freaking really good, it looked like, and that team is like injury riddled.
Yeah.
So luckily it's not taking away from our football experience yet.
Yeah, I was reading some things, trying to like see if it was more than normal or not, and people have like mixed feelings. Some people are kind of saying, there was less of an off season and less of a preseason, and teams aren't taking preseason as an opportunity to actually get their guys reps, and so guys are going into game time situations without having a lot of that practice, and so they're kind of injuring themselves a lot easier, especially early on in the season. And there are other people who have said, like you, like there's not more injuries this year than there have been. Like it just seems like there is, but there's really not. That recency
I and I
bias.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've listened to a few like podcasts about them talking about how like for the Colt, and like every program has their own protocol and how they want to run their, I mean, rules, but what they can do in the off season, how much they're going to hit at practice and stuff. And like the Colts, for example, they like this year people were getting on them for like not doing like contact at practice enough. Like hardly, I think they might have done like less than six full contact days before the NFL season, which like sounds nuts.
Yeah,
Sounds absolutely crazy.
that seems very
Especially if
small.
you were a player who last year was like on the practice squad and then didn't, or like had a COVID year or something, like you haven't been hit with football pads on for over a year. Like your body, yeah, that's just nuts to me. But and like for example, their team is just being destroyed with injuries right now. So like I wonder if taking the off season easy and taking the preseason like easy is gonna start to like compound, because maybe it feels like the normal amount now, but it starts to like really wear on them as we go. I mean, who knows? A lot of teams hit a lot more than that, and I think some hit less. So we'll see if that's definitely like something to keep an eye on though.
Yeah, yeah,
It does feel like a lot.
it does. Um, we have about 9 to 10 minutes before our lovely guest Zach will be joining us. Um, I wanted to get your week 3. Uh, I I was gonna say I don't want to come up with like a stupid name for it, but studs and duds. Who are your week 3 picks that are gonna have a great week, and maybe some week 3 guys that are not gonna have a good week?
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let me pull up the old let me look at some matchups here. What we got going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. While you pull that up, I will uh, give some of mine. How about that? So I think that there's I think tight end is an easy one for me to start at, because uh, you've got Hawkinson going up against Baltimore. I think Hawkinson is just a lock every single week. He doesn't. There's not a lot of other players on the Detroit team, outside of their running backs, that are catching balls. And they played. Baltimore last week played against Kansas City, and there was not a dip in Kelsey's performance. So I think Hawkinson's going to be able to put up a good week against Baltimore. I think that Kittle is not a great option for tight end. I think he's an amazing player in real life, but I think for fantasy, he doesn't drive the huge volume that befits. Right now he's like ranked number 4 for week 3, and I don't see it. I don't think that he really is going to get a lot of fantasy points.
Yep, I can respect that. I think I don't know what it has been about Kittle, but it hasn't seemed like that dominant force from like 2 years ago has ever really come back. More so the streaky games, but nowhere near like the consistency that like Kelsey has, where it's you're gonna get 14 out of him at least.
Yeah, yeah, he has
So
like a very high floor still. You can guarantee yourself to get points.
well, I'm gonna jump in here. Unless are you done with your tight ends?
I
Are you
am,
still
yeah,
on your
yeah,
tight
yeah.
ends?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, looking at this matchup here, looks like McCaffrey is gonna just love his life. Um, the Texans, that's just gonna be maybe they let Darnold get a couple touchdowns in the first half. Feel kind of loosened up, and then they're just gonna probably want to run the score
Yeah.
on the timeout. So I'm gonna go a good game there. I'm gonna call it now. I don't want people up, but Henry's gonna have a good week, I think. Halfway say that just so that I feel okay when it does happen, but I can also say like I called it. But it's gonna be one of those weeks where like everybody's like, oh, see, Henry's back. It's a little bit of a facade, but
You don't have any
it'll
faith in
happen
the
this
Indy
week.
defense?
At this point, no, no,
Yeah.
and no. So uh,
Okay.
I
Okay.
think we find out where Saquon is this week too against the Falcons defense. I think we see how that knee if he's gonna be anything what he used to be, we're gonna find out if it's gonna happen this year anyway.
Is this the week? The week 3
This is
matchup
the
against the
week.
Giants?
Giants Falcons, yeah, yeah. I
Or
mean,
sorry, against the Falcons. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I don't Falcons defense doesn't scare me. You're gonna see he's gonna test the knee. He hasn't scared anybody yet, and I mean they're gonna keep playing him. So we're gonna find out if where he's at. He's got a couple games under his belt. He's been hit. It was okay. I remember how it feels, and this is the week. This is a hot take. This is the week we find out if Saquon's legit or not. If he scores me some fantasy points, then I think he might be okay to keep. If not,
He's gonna be back.
yeah.
All right. I've got a wild one that I'll throw out there. I think this is a week that you see Carter for the Jets take over more than what he's been given. So
Okay.
I think that New York has not been shy about doing running back by committee, and that has really hit all 3 of those running backs' fantasy values. I think last week you got to see glimpses of why they drafted Carter. And I think that this is a week that you'll see even more of a workload for him. And if he performs well, I think it's the beginning of him taking over more of that role within that offense.
That's fair. That's fair. I like that.
Wild
Get that.
accusations. All right. Uh,
You gotta give him.
you got faith in Murray against Jacksonville?
Yeah, that's again one of those ones where it's like they're gonna be out of it too early to where he might not have his 45 points a week he's been getting. Um, front runner MVP Murray.
Either that, or he's going to score his 45 points in the first quarter, and then they'll just be done with it.
That's cool, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And I think that's an easy win. No contest there. What else? What might we learn something in here?
So
Raiders. This seems like a game the Raiders lose. I just want to say that
you're going to call the Raiders
they've
loss?
won a couple good games, and I just feel as if it's
Two is
not where it
out,
happens.
so it's Jacoby Brissett.
Exactly. This is a game they lose.
Yeah, it is. It is Brissett. Uh, I'll give one last one, and then I believe we have been joined by our good friend Zach. So my last big prediction. Well, actually, it's more of a question. Josh Allen, do you think that he comes out and redeems himself against Washington? Because he first 2 weeks has not looked as spectacular as everyone had hoped.
I think he does. I think it seems like a big game. That Washington defense used to sound kind of scary, so I think they prep pretty good. But also, the Washington defense seems like it has not lived up to the hype. They've let up some pretty big games, so I think he does all right. And um, you're not going to get your stereotypical Allen. I think he looks a little bit better.
It's gonna look better. All right. Well, Zach, thank you for
Hello.
joining us.
Of
How's it
course.
going?
Thanks for having me. How are you guys?
Can't
Dude,
complain over here.
doing
I
pretty
probably
good.
could.
Doing pretty good.
Is
Uh,
my sound as bad as Matt's last week? Because it's one thing to be British, but it's another thing to have that bad of a microphone.
you sound a lot better. I also primed it before of where when you jumped on, I lessened the volume so that way it was not going to be as loud. So that's good. That's a good thing.
Love it. I'm happy to hear it. I'm trying
Yeah.
to get my setup right over here too. So
Yeah. Uh, so you heard last week.
I
You
did.
you
I
heard
did.
you heard our positives, our rooms for improvement. Uh, but I want to hear your thoughts on your roster. What things you are excited about? Maybe some areas you agree or disagree on the improvements, and then I know that Jake is dying to know more about Zach Moss. So
Jake loves Zach Moss. I know. I've been ready for this all week. No, first off, thanks for having me on. It's good to be here with you guys. Jake, good to meet you in the flesh.
Yeah, you
First
as
time.
well. You as well.
First time caller, long time listener. Happy to be here. No, I'll dive in with Zach Moss. I'll just start there, and then I'd love if there's anywhere you want me to focus on, let me know. Because you guys get straight to business. I was listening with Matt, and there was no foreplay. You guys just get right into it. Tell me what you think. And he was ready for it. He didn't want to mess around either. So
was.
I'll
He
let
was.
you lead the way. I'm here for you. No, the Zach Moss thing, at that point in the draft, you guys have talked about this in depth, but at that point in the draft, people were paying crazy money for quarterbacks, running backs, all the skill players. And I realized pretty quickly that my conservative strategy was not going to pay off for me getting any top tier running backs. So at that point, I need to take a risk. He felt like a safe gamble for sure, being the feature back last year. I know you have Singletary, but in a league where most of these teams are moving to running back by committee, personally, I'd rather have the goal line guy than the 2 or 3 down back. And Zach Moss was that for Buffalo. I paid more for him than I wanted, but I still think 20 million is pretty reasonable, all things considered. And I'm kind of hoping that because he was hurt last year, it means he won't get hurt this year. So he was a healthy scratch for week 1. Week 2, there's a lot of there was a lot of chatter going on in the league chat, talking down on Zach Moss. Then he punches in 2 touchdowns, so he outplayed the running backs I ended up playing that week. But in terms of like looking forward this season, I think, yeah, you guys hit the nail on the head last week. My running backs are, they're an injury ward, and I'm definitely going to have to make some sort of move or give up something I don't want to give up to improve that. But I think the benefit of this league is it's a dynasty league, and you're not just playing for this year. So, if it ends up being my Achilles heel right now, I don't think there were any backs that I don't feel bad about eating over the next couple of years. So, excited about that for sure. But yeah, Moss was a gamble and hasn't necessarily paid off yet. Also hasn't not paid off yet. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I mean we're 2 weeks in. It's pretty early to say anything. I mean, also who knows, right? There's been it seems like running back after running back that are quote starters that have been going down with injuries. And if Singletary happens to be injured this year, then Moss is going to be the only guy that they have in Buffalo. So
100%.
Yeah.
And he did just shut us up by scoring 2 touchdowns. So go figure. Go figure.
Well, you guys know as much as I do on this running back team, so who knows? I'll probably be taking any advice I can get. Sounds like I've got a Gerald Everett trade on the way, so hopefully that'll help me out a little bit. We'll see who Kyle sends
There
me.
you go.
There you go. So you also have some pretty decent quarterbacks. You've got Stafford, Fields, who I think Jake and I have talked about. We put a bet down that he was going to be starting week 4. He's starting week 3. So you've got that. So that's a solid youth option moving forward. I think a lot of people are really high on Fields, and you got him at a very low price. So that's got to be pretty exciting for you. And then I think Bridgewater's been kind of the surprise for a lot of the quarterbacks, at least in my eyes. He's putting down 25 a week on average. It's very quality numbers for somebody who was in a quarterback, battle of who's going to be actually starting with Locke. So, do you want to just give a quick thoughts on your quarterbacks?
Yeah, I know Matt threw out a lot of stats last week, so I try to come prepared. They're not your most traditional ones, but Teddy Bridgewater, believe it or not, is actually the only NFL starting quarterback with the same birthday as me. So I knew immediately that I'm going to play in my favor.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all of the intel I did on Teddy Bridgewater. That, and I think he's underrated. I think Denver has traditionally had terrible quarterbacks, and he seemed like the least terrible over the last probably 5 years. So for me, I mean, you guys saw in the draft, I had Fields. I knew he wasn't going to start week 1, but I figured I would just try to find somebody on the waiver wire going into the season that would help me out in that position should I need a quarterback. And luckily he was available and he's been playing well. Stafford, I couldn't agree more with your commentary from last week. I think there was a high ceiling for him if he could fit into the offense and play right away really well. And it seems like he's been able to do that. So that's been a great surprise for me. And I think I definitely paid less for him when I drafted him than I would pay if we drafted tomorrow. So I was happy about that deal. And he's young enough to the point where I could sign him for a couple of years. And, I'm not going to give him like a Tom Brady deal or sounds like Aaron Rodgers deal or whatever that might look like. But I'll see what he's got for a couple of years and, move him if he's valuable. But I feel the same way with him and Teddy. Both of them have become pretty valuable over the last couple of weeks. And I think hopefully we'll continue to do so. And, I love having them on the team, but if I get the call, they're not locked in the way that my boy Travis Kelce is. The DMs are open, Jake.
Anybody is available. All right. Well, then I don't think we have to spend too much time on your tight ends. You have Kelce. You're locked in with one.
That was my favorite part of last week, by the way. I heard Jake, his tight end room could use a little help, and I think he read a little bit too fast because he's probably the biggest name I've got.
I can't even express, I don't know what happened there. It was just a recognizable name, so I looked over it, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, you hope that he's actually not there in case we play each other, which I'm sure we will. So that's probably what it came down to.
Your tight end room, it's impressive. Yeah, it's good.
It could use a bit of work. And then lastly, you got your receivers. I think honestly, we've we all thought last week that your receiving group was probably one of the stronger ones. I think that you have a couple players who have even outperformed what we were expecting. With Lockett, I don't know if you started Christian Kirk in a game, but he's definitely doing way better than I think a lot of people had expected. And I think you picked him up as a free agent, so that was a quality depth piece to grab. But we'll just finish up with your receivers. What do you think about the receiving group?
The receivers are strong. I started with, I've probably made the most wide receiver trades of any other position group. So that's been an interesting one. I know I started with Robbie Anderson and Deontay Johnson, a couple people. Kyle, you and I have done a couple trades. I traded with Matt as well. At this point, I've had more trades, I think, in the last 3 weeks in this league, last month, than any other fantasy league I've ever been in combined. So that's been my favorite part of it for sure.
Yeah.
But even
go for it.
Even just looking back on some of the people I had before this group, I mean, Lockett was pretty bona fide with me. I wanted to keep Jones just because I thought it'd be cool to see what happens in Tennessee. But DeAndre Hopkins had a cup of coffee on my team. I moved him for Adams. It's been an interesting roulette of receivers. And then the season came or was coming, and I thought I got to see 1 week with this group and then reevaluate. But you guys talked a little bit last week about kind of the trade value, or I've got 3 tight ends. Obviously, I don't need 3 tight ends. What am I going to do with that? Or the quarterbacks are playing better than good. I'm starting to build a little bit of depth with the wide receiver, free agent pickups, and the guys that I've got on the team already. But when you try to reach out for some of these trades, everybody wants the big name or nothing at all. And everybody's become very possessive about who they've got and what their contracts look like. So it's been funny to see how quickly we shifted from, oh, this is fun. Like, you take this guy and I'll take that guy. And then we'll decide how many years they've got left. Now it's, if you're not giving up Devontae Adams, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I don't know what NFL GM is looking to give up Devontae Adams, but he's going to be a tough one to move.
We had 17 trades over 12 days, and we've had 1 trade since.
Right.
And it's very interesting. Like you said, I think a lot of people, before we had locked into all of the contracts, there was a little bit more value on players and how they were viewed, because everyone was thinking, okay, well, I can decide how long I want this player and how long I'm willing to pay for this. And now that we've locked into those, yearly contracts, that there's a little less flexibility with that. But
right.
it also is a bit of that, well, the season's starting now and I can kind of see who's doing what and who's not, and I want to wait and see a little bit. My insider knowledge is it's not actually insider knowledge, but it's my guess. My internal feeling is that like weeks 6 through 10 we'll probably see a lot more action going on within the league, as people are starting to decide if they're going to try and push for playoffs and maybe trying to win, or if they're going to just actually blow it up and rebuild and things like that. And so I think there will be a bit more stuff going on then. But yeah, it's definitely turned into more of a, well, I want Devontae Adams, and so if you're not going to include that in the deal, then I think that we don't necessarily have anything to talk about at this point.
Right, which will stand for sure. It makes a lot of sense.
It's people not knowing, like, okay, well, what happens? Like, what does the draft process look like next year? It's going to be different when you have the rookie draft and whatnot too. So it's like, once we have a full year of everything that goes on under everyone's belt, because most of us haven't ever done like this type of league before, that then it gets a little bit more comfortable. Because I think there's going to be a lot more money left when you have like after the rookie draft, when you have that many like cheap picks on your roster. So, and then people might be making a little bit more splashy deals and whatnot. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I think there's going to be I think there's going to be a lot that happens during that time, right? So the NFL will announce in February what the salary cap for next year will be. So we'll match to that. So if it goes up to like 205, then everybody just gained 22 million extra dollars, right? So that's a huge amount of money.
Right.
You said there's going to be the rookie draft, and their salaries are based on a percentage, and it's a very, very small percentage, kind of like how the NFL is now. So even the first pick is only like 6% of the salary cap, which is not a lot of money. Or it's like 4%. So it's like 8 million maybe. So if you're going to be getting like Andy, we joke about Andy signing Trevor Lawrence at a huge deal. And if we had a rookie draft this year and he picked Trevor Lawrence with the first pick, he would be paying $8 million, and he's got him at 40. So it's like I think there's going to be kind of that realization of that the rookie picks are a lot more valuable and can get you pretty far with having talent that you can lock down for a long time at a low wage to give you that extra flexibility to kind of overpay for some of those other pieces that you might be missing and wanting to lock down for in the other free agency drafts that we have going on.
Well, I think we can all agree that he massively overpaid for Trevor Lawrence, right? Like that's a fact.
He would even admit to that. I believe that he would say he overpaid for Trevor Lawrence.
1,000%. One thing I'm curious about from you two, plenty of time, but hopefully, long-term deal. He's going to be eating that contract for a while. I'm curious from your perspective, both of you. I know both of you were active in making trades early on. To your point, Kyle, it was a lot more engaging early on before the season started. Now it started to slow down, and you're expecting there to be more action mid-season.
Yeah.
Has your mentality towards being open or more closed off to trades changed as a result of some of the deals that you've made up to that point? Like, are you more hesitant to make deals now? I remember reaching out to you for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I have in another fantasy league, and it was a blessing in disguise that you felt so attached to him because I don't think he's done by any means. To your point, it's week 2.
Yeah.
But I've had players like that where I moved DeAndre Hopkins and I look back like, did I make a mistake? I'm happy with my core, but
yeah,
we all have moves that we're reflecting on. I'd be curious to know how you both feel, going into week 3. What's your mentality towards trading now or openness? And
yeah, so I'll start and then I'll let Jake jump in. So I have a huge tendency to want to constantly be making moves, and I reach out to people. I think I reach out to at least 3 to 5 people a week of trying to see if I can make any kind of moves. I think that if I can speak highly about myself, which that never happens, I think that I view trading, especially in this league, a little bit differently than some of the people that I've been reaching out to, in the sense of, I think that there's some big value in clearing up cap space that people aren't really fully recognizing just yet. Especially when we think through that we're going to be able to roll money over from season to season. So if you don't spend all of the cash that you have, you can have some of it next year. And that's going to give those owners that are able to roll some of that cash over a big advantage in the restricted free agency drafts that we have, right? So everyone's going to be able to pick 2 players that they want to restrict. There's going to be an auction, and then the original owner can choose whether or not they want to exceed that final bid value by 10%. So if I'm able to outbid everybody and get a huge number, I'm probably also outbidding what that original owner might be wanting by having that extra 5 to 10 million that I could throw down on this. So I think that there is some room there of where having that extra cap space kind of gives you that extra value to where you could overpay for somebody that you might not normally. And so when I'm viewing trades, I try and view it as not only just like in-season value, but also that dynasty value of younger players that could potentially become better. But then also lastly, there's that other kind of twist to it of, is this clearing cap space for you, or is it hindering your ability to grab things? And right now, I don't have a huge amount of faith in my team being a top team. I don't think that I could win the league. Like, even if I were to squeak into the playoffs, I don't think that I would win, because I think that there are some teams that have a lot of really top-end talent this year that probably won't next year. So I'm fine with not winning and bringing a lot of money with me. And so some of the deals that I have made have been to kind of try and clear a lot of space of offloading some of the larger contracts that I had that I was like, well, I also need top end talent. And now I'm kind of like, my team's not going to win this year, I don't think. So might as well offload some of the big contracts if I can.
Yeah, no, I think that's in the back, like most of that's in the back of my mind. And this where I'm at is I went in thinking I think I have like a top. I think I could make a good playoff run, and then I got very humbled week one. Got slaughtered. And then that made me. I mean, granted, I put up enough points to where if I played pretty much anyone else, I would have been okay. But so that made me like not too sure about the team. And then am I for like, am I playing for this year or am I playing for like, okay, it's not going to happen this year. We'll just worry about next year or something like that, or the following year. So like, I'm like you where my lines are always open. I have not made a trade in a long time comparative. I also screwed myself like before the season started and had to make trades in order to fill out a roster. So that's half the reason why I was so active. But um, like I think now I got to figure out if I have a team that I want to go this year for, and then I have to like I can like kind of throw away maybe I can sign some weird contracts, and that might kind of make me scratch my head later on, or am I playing for the near future? So I think it's made me have to be a little bit more strategic looking at trades and like think about what their contracts are. Whereas in the beginning, kind of how we talked about earlier, where it was just like, yeah, whatever, no real. You get to pick the contract. I get to pick how many years. That made it a
Right.
lot easier. So there's just a lot more behind it now that the season started too to think about.
No, 100%. One thing you mentioned, though, I'm always interested to hear other people's opinions on. I don't think there's anything more equally frustrating and satisfying than when you're losing and you know it's out of reach, immediately looking to see how many other teams you would have beat that week. It's
Oh,
like, oh,
all the
my
time.
my
All the
team
time.
doesn't suck, but I had no chance. So like, how mad at
Yeah.
myself can I? That's the first move. Is okay. I would have beaten 9 out of 10 teams, or 8 out of 9, and I just happen to be playing the one that got me.
How can you soften the ego you just lost? Like you got to build it up somehow. How do you
It's like
soften that blow to
that,
check
or
out the
Uber
other
Eats on a
scores?
Sunday night, or a
Yeah.
combination of both is going to set you straight. But knowing that you would
Yeah.
have beat everyone else is oddly satisfying.
It makes losing by like 100 points feel a little bit better.
Yes, let's see. Jake, you week 1 you would have beat every team except for 2 others. So you had the
Yeah.
fourth highest points in 12 teams. You happen to just be
I think
playing.
I got beat
You
by
still got beat by
100
80.
points. Yeah. Yeah. Which he scored about half of that this week.
Yeah, I was able to pull off a victory against him. So I feel great knowing that
Oh
my
yeah,
team, who is awful, was able to squeak out a win. Go team.
you were down pretty early too, and it's not like I think that's the thing about the projections that gets me every time is I understand you've got all these cool algorithms going, and you have a better shot at figuring it out than me with a napkin and a pen, but yeah, you can't trust anything you see. Like they
Yeah.
don't know anything more than you do about how it's going to play out.
Yeah,
But man, those projections,
they
they'll
get
keep
you.
you up at night,
I mean,
100%.
I had Mayfield and Harris and Woods and Moore and Evans and Hawkinson, and they were doing absolutely nothing Sunday morning, and then they all were able to grab a couple touchdowns, make some big plays, and put me up to where I was still on the fence of if I was going to win or not.
They just did football things, and
Yeah.
it worked out for you.
Yeah,
But those, if there was a way to hide the projections, I swear I would do it, because it just
well,
nothing messes with you more. It's a bigger enemy than whoever you're playing.
and what's funny about that too is if you look at my score and my projection, they were 1 point off.
Insane.
So they were on track exactly with what I was supposed to be getting. I just didn't have any faith.
How they got to that number though, I don't know if that it was close or not, but
Yeah.
it is funny when like I'll find myself wavering on like, oh, if I bring this guy up from the bench, they're like a 1 point differential, like, oh,
Right.
okay, you beat yourself up about that, and then there's probably by the end of the day one dude put up 15 more points than the other. Like, yeah, the projections just how you said it is perfect. That's it ruins it.
You can't trust it. I'm like debating. All right, the projection says he's going to get 12, but the Raiders linebackers are looking solid this year. I don't know anything about the Raiders linebacking core. Like, who am I? But I feel like I'm equal with the projection. Who are they? They have no idea.
There's a reason
So
that thought went to your head.
in case you want to know what I'm thinking right before I play you in a fantasy league, I am overthinking every aspect.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Yeah.
It's you say that I am in a league with like my wife and then like my immediate family, so my parents, my siblings and their kids and stuff. And I basically drafted Sarah's team for the most part. And her team is dominant, hands down.
Is that not the worst
greatest
feeling?
team of all time? And I gifted all of those players to her. And I was so happy about my draft as well, but I overthink everything, and she doesn't. She just goes with what it is, and it's fine every week.
My girlfriend Hannah, who Kyle knows as well, she got into fantasy football a couple of years ago, and her first year in the league, she won the whole thing. So now she's hooked, like it's her favorite. But she doesn't know anybody's names. Like everyone is C. McCaffrey and L. Jackson and H. Ruggs the third. It's hilarious. She has no idea who these guys are. She's got no attachment to them. She's looking at projections. She's going off jersey colors. Who knows? And she's beating everybody. And her dad is super into fantasy football, so they work together on their draft sheets, and he'll send over this power ranking list of who he recommends and who are the no-goes. And when we draft together, she might ask me a question every now and then, and I'm looking at her like, we're going to play each other. We're competing. I can't help you
Yeah,
here.
we're enemies.
Can't help you.
And God forbid I draft someone she was looking at. Immediately has to mean that I saw the list and I knew that she wanted them, and I only drafted them because that's who she wanted. So the family fantasy is like another layer of the whole thing.
Hearing my dad trash talk my brother-in-law was quite hilarious. I have to admit.
I mean, I think the having no attachment is like the best possible thing you can have when it comes to fantasy football. If you're not attached, that helps you so much. You're not just clinging
100%.
on to the hope, which I think I struggle with. And it's not even players I necessarily like. It's just the thought of them that they could be.
Yeah, well, it's like Kenny Golladay. Every week I'm like, okay, this is the week he finally pulls it together. He's going to do it this week. And every week I get so heartbroken and disappointed. And last week I wasn't going to start him. The last second I put him back in. And he got outscored by players on my bench.
But that's on you for playing someone from the Giants.
I
just have teams that I think I don't care who they are. I can't trust them. Like if they go off and I'm wrong about them, I deserve it. But I'm not going to play a New York Giant. I'm not going to play a New York Jet.
I think from New York.
Yeah, New York teams are, unless they're from Buffalo, then so long as they have their vaccine and hopefully won't be out for 6 weeks at a time, or I don't know how controversial of a subject it is here, but Buffalo is really making a name for themselves in that sense. But yes, the New York teams near New Jersey are troublesome, and I do not recommend any of them.
The teams that I believe they actually play in New Jersey, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So,
fake New York teams.
Yeah. Well, I think this week we were going to chat through Jake's dad's team. So Boyd. In the league, he's got McCaffrey. He's got Murray. He's got Burrow. He has Ridley and Sutton and Chase. He's got some of the big names. Why I feel like I don't have a shot at winning this year is mostly due to his team being very consistent, is in my opinion. I feel like once you get into the playoff weeks, you're not going to be missing anybody with bye weeks. So it becomes more of just like a consistency expectation. And I think that he can always count on those names to most likely perform. So I have zero faith in winning. And I look forward to next year trying to poach some of those players. So we'll chat through that. The quarterbacks, as I kind of mentioned, he's got Murray, he's got Burrow, and then he also has Mac Jones. So he's even building for the future. What do you guys think about his quarterbacks?
If you got 3 starting quarterbacks in this league, you're doing good. And I said earlier, I think Murray's the MVP as of right now. But got to be happy with Murray. And he got him at a relatively, I mean, compared to Mahomes, good price.
Yeah.
Burrow felt like a steal. Maybe don't look at last week, but seemed like he got him really, really cheap. And then even again, if you're getting a starting quarterback for the league minimum, and he's a rookie, like it's pretty good,
Yeah.
good thing to have on your team in this league. So
Great
I
value.
think, and I guess he had Tom Brady originally.
He did.
That's who he traded for, or Mac Jones was part of that trade. So he went like, that was like, besides McCaffrey, I think he went for quarterbacks after that. So that was definitely his strategies. He was going to have quarterbacks on his roster right off the bat that were all had knew what they were doing and were going to score him points. So I mean, that's a good quarterback room in my eyes.
Yeah, I think that it's a solid group for sure. You can't go wrong with Kyler at all. And then Burrow has seemed solid coming back from the injury, and Jones is a great investment play, for the next 5 years. The thing that I love about Kyler Murray is, he's throwing a lot of touchdowns. He's obviously got amazing scrambling abilities and can run with the best of them. But I love that he can still throw 2 or 3 picks in a game, Jameis style, and we're all like, "Oh, look at Kyler Murray, he's so quick." It's amazing to me that we've gotten to the point that so long as you're throwing for 5 touchdowns, the interceptions don't matter. And some of the throws he makes are like, I mean, it's like Saturday pickup football that you're watching him play, and that's why I think he's so fun. It's like college has made it to the NFL, but he just seems like he's on another level, like at twice the speed that anybody else can keep up with him, and he makes it look so easy. But I think it's a solid group for sure. He's got a guy to play for now. Obviously, didn't want to keep him long term on such a high deal, so I'm I'm looking at McCaffrey, same kind of thing, and one of the things I'm curious to hear from you, Kyle, about outside of just his team is how many big money players people decided I paid way too much for this. I can't hold 5 years. They're all going to be back on the market. Like, do we make the same mistake again as a league? Or, is it one year that we all decide this is the year I'm going to spend $50 million on Christian McCaffrey, but I can only do it this year, right? Like I did something similar with Travis Kelce, but I'll give you some insider information. Breaking news: he's getting the franchise tag. Like, there's no question about it. Because I'm gonna save like $12 million just throwing a franchise tag on him. It's insane.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Well, and that's, I think, you bring up kind of like our quirky rules that we have of the franchise tag options, and I think that honestly he's going to franchise McCaffrey. He's going to get another year out of him of where his salary is going to drop down to like 35 million,
right?
Where right now it's currently at 53, and I guarantee you that Boyd's going to be very stoked to get McCaffrey at 35 million. So why would he not? So honestly, we're probably not going to see McCaffrey coming into free agency until the year after. And at that point, he might choose to restricted free agent him. So he still has the opportunity to keep him for another time. And if the contract is right then at that point, he can sign him to a long-term deal if he wants to. So, I think McCaffrey's out, but because of that, it, brings in the opportunity for Kyler Murray to be up for auction, right? So there's opportunities in other ways. It's that kind of give and take of who is he going to take, who's he going to keep. But yeah, I mean, Murray is putting up 40 points a week, so he's that's so solid in comparison. And because it's super flex and he's got Burrow or Jones, he can kind of count on 15 to 20 extra points, and so right there he's already scoring 60 points a week just out of his quarterback position, and that's huge value, I think, even for the paying 39 million for Murray.
For sure.
So then the running backs, we've talked about it. He has McCaffrey. I think beyond that, it starts to get a little weaker and fall off. So he's got Davis, Edmonds, Gordon, and Jones. I think, in my opinion, that's kind of a big drop off in terms of value of who he has in his as the rest of his running backs. I think that it's probably interesting to try and decide who he's going to start in his second running back spot, because you can't necessarily count on Edmonds, you can't necessarily count on Davis, you can't necessarily count on Gordon. They're all kind of in those running back by committee situations, and so it's kind of a balancing act of who do you pick. It's probably based on who they're playing potentially, but that's kind of a difficult spot in my opinion.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest.
Sorry, Jake. You go for it.
You got it. You got it.
I think for Edmonds, I like that he I knew this was going to happen. I'll dive in. For Edmonds, I like him a lot. I think that he definitely gets caught up in the shuffle of the running back by committee conversation, but I have him in another league, and one of the things I was really paying attention to during that Vikings game last week was how quickly would he come back in when he was on the sideline. And it really felt like they would pull him out for a series or even a couple downs to get a breather. But anytime there was a big play on the horizon, or they called up a big say, or they were getting close to the goal line, it felt like he is their guy, maybe more so than Buffalo, for example, or some of the other teams that are, New England running back by committee, almost by design. So I think for me, Chase is a pretty solid second running back pick. But I agree, Mike Davis, seeing Cordero Patterson emerge in Atlanta has been crazy. These old wide receivers that have become running backs, like the Ty Montgomery hybrid that has now become, Derrick Henry is a tight end playing running back, but he's always been a running back. And I think a lot of teams are like, if I've got a coordinated guy that can actually get going once he's in the open field, maybe it's a good move. Like this could be the beginning of something. So I definitely I should say I like Edmonds. I think Davis and Gordon, to your point, Kyle, are pretty risky. But I know Mike Davis had a lot of high around him before Patterson really broke out. So It's a tough one to play it. Who knows? He might end up becoming the feature back again.
Yeah, I think just echoing everyone else, Christian McCaffrey, great to have. He probably thought, I'm sure he's like, if they start another running back alongside Christian McCaffrey, it's going to average what 2 running backs are supposed to get. So I think like Chase Edmonds, Mike Davis, like those guys, part of a committee, like the number one of the committee, like leading the way. But it isn't the ideal situation to be part of a committee by anything. But and then Gordon, it would be nothing impressive if it wasn't for like the 70-yard run he had. So it's just, I think worked out because you have McCaffrey, and I do think that he will have him on his team for three years, 2 more years after this year. But only does it like kind of work because you have Christian McCaffrey on your team.
And then jumping into his wide receivers. So we had talked about how he received Mac Jones in a trade by giving up Tom Brady. So his arguable number 1 wide receiver that he has was part of that deal. So he received Ridley. So Ridley came over with Jones he gave away Marquez Callaway, who hasn't really done a whole lot just yet, but it is his rookie season, and then Tom Brady as well. So that's a fairly even trade by all accounts, when you include the kind of the salary flexibility that it offers. But so Ridley, he also has Cortland Sutton, Jamar Chase, Smith-Schuster, Corey Davis, Jacoby Myers, and Michael Gallup, who unfortunately is now out with injuries. Zach,
Ridley's solid.
Why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I think Ridley and Chase are a really, really good one too. It's hard to look past that. My biggest mentality when you guys talked about this a little bit last week with Matt, but my mentality towards the wide receiver, the fantasy are one thing, but I always try to keep in mind who's throwing them the ball. And with Joe Burrow's young and has started to prove himself more and more every week, so a little bit hesitant there, but they have that connection from college, and I think it's amazing to see them be able to bring that to the NFL. Same thing with Tua and Jalen Waddle. So there's excitement on that front, and Jamar Chase has showed up. I mean, we're 2 weeks in, but he's played really well. And then Ridley's a standout receiver as well. Matt Ryan's super dependable, and if the running backs aren't going to be there, that his arm is still going to carry that team through. And with Julio Jones gone, Ridley's just going to get more and more of those targets. So I'm a big fan of those two for sure. Cortland Sutton seems solid. Juju always seems solid. Pittsburgh's kind of a toss-up for me. And then, it's tough to see Gallup go down in Dallas. Corey Davis, I think, is a good sleeper pick for sure. Because outside of him, you've got Elijah Moore, and I can't name any other wide receivers on that team. So he's definitely going to keep getting those targets for this. And if Zach Wilson does half of what people think that he will, it seems like Corey Davis could have a sneaky good year. But I think, I kind of feel this way. I know we're going to get to the tight ends in a little bit, so I'll leave that out. But I miss Jacoby Myers, who seems super dependable in New England as well. I think he's a solid bench player for sure. I think that this team has really, really good standout top players in each category, and then that depth is really mid-tier to high tier as you keep going down the list. So there's probably a lot of places where you can get in your own head when you're trying to pick who you're going to play each week, looking at the matchups or how well they did the week before. And that's probably what scares me the most, because outside of one, maybe two guys in each position group, you could really plug and play any of these guys and they could have a breakout week.
What a tough problem to have. Be scratching your head at which of your 5-6 wide receivers should take that third spot. So, I mean, I just want to say that you had some pretty high praise for Corey Davis, and he does play for New York. I thought you were the anti-New York guy, but
It can be
that
bought.
just means a lot.
I move quick, Jake. You got to stick with me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Alvin Ridley, good receiver. Chase, good receiver, and then there's just depth after depth after depth. We looked at Gallup. That reminded me. You said all these wide receivers taking or tight ends taking running back spots. I think CeeDee Lamb even took like a handoff last week. So who knows? Who knows? But yeah, just that's a pretty deep wide receiver group he has.
Yeah. I think that your dad made a great trade he had 3 really quality quarterbacks, was able to move one to get kind of that more depth, long-term future prospect to hopefully be starting to plug in during the bye week coverage and stuff. But being able to pick up Ridley was huge, because after that, I think that there is kind of a drop off. You're looking at based off of rankings, and like we've talked about, who knows what rankings are. You can kind of go off of them, but you can't necessarily depend on them always. But you're looking at a group that is, Chase, Schuster, Sutton, and Davis, that are all in kind of that wide receiver 3 zone. We have 3 starting wide receivers, and so having options in the deep area is great, but he didn't necessarily have that number 1 standout, and he definitely has that with Ridley. So that was a great move in my opinion. But like you guys have said, I can kind of echo. It becomes kind of a who do you play based off of matchups, because there isn't necessarily those standout players that you can depend on to know week in, week out that they're going to be in your starting lineup. Okay, we'll finish.
Yeah, I think his that again, just so that trade that he made, like drafting the 3 starting quarterbacks was pretty smart, like from the beginning, because he knew he was going to get more than what he got, like what he invested into one of them to get like a pretty good return. Like he got Mac 5 years out of it, and then he got Ridley, or what is it, 2 years?
He's gone for 2.
But I mean, it was so that was smart on his end. The seasoned vet knew what he was doing when he played with us young bucks.
Yes. We'll jump in lastly to his tight ends, which I think is potentially one of like the weakest spots that he has. He's got Austin Hooper and Adam Troutman.
Yeah, that's I would agree, probably the only place where there might be, if you could upgrade, then maybe Could see some love there, I think, but he's got Hooper at 800,000. I don't know if he's gonna get any more like talent at that price. That was just where we chose to not spend money, and I don't know. Troutman, like, actually, I'm not gonna. I have nothing great to say. Yeah, it's just a mediocre spot. Gotta have that on your team. He chose tight ends.
You gotta have one.
Dad listens to this, so I gotta be careful. He's upstairs.
Well, I think with the Troutman deal, nobody really expected Juwan Johnson to break out either, right? It's like this classic case of the only thing better than one good tight end is two good tight ends, and a lot of teams have done this over the last couple of years. So to know, that it seems like he was hurt early on, or I might have that wrong. But Juwan Johnson goes off week 1 and in that big win for the Saints, and now it's not, you got him on a low value deal, but can you move him or can you upgrade, to your point, Jake? And I've run into this as well as someone with 3 tight ends on the team. Having guys on low value deals is great for you because you're not paying a lot for them, but trying to get a return on that, knowing that they have more value than what you're paying for them, and you're going to have to take on a lot more cap space on someone else's deal, it's not necessarily a 1-for-1 move. So I would agree, of the team, this is definitely the weakest position group, but Austin Hooper is playing well for Cleveland. You've got David Njoku alongside him, and even he hasn't really played up to the standard that I think everybody expected him to play to. So who knows? Hooper did amazing in Atlanta for so long, and seems like he's fitting in well in Cleveland. So he could end up breaking out, and you've got him on a great deal for 3 years. You won't pay more than 1.1 million for him at the most on a single year. So I think, at a glance, not the strongest group, but I think there's a lot of potential there, and who knows? Great value on the contracts too.
Yeah, agreed. I think that we've all said it. I think my biggest takeaway from this team specifically is just there's a lot of very top end talent, and then it's kind of drops off, and that that's something that going in, I thought that my team specifically was quite deep, but the depth that I have is a lot of those guys might play 1 to 2 weeks, covering bye weeks and things like that. So how important that is kind of remains to be seen, as we get into week 6 to 14 and start seeing where we have to have coverage for some of those guys. I think though, if you were to say, would you take Murray, McCaffrey, Ridley? And I would definitely say yes, right? Like there's a lot of talent, and so to have that and to have it locked up and be able to have it locked up for a while is going to set him up for success in the future. And I think that he's got a great shot this year at definitely making the playoffs and even contending for the championship.
Especially that quarterback depth that we talked about with the super flex position. I've got to say, Kyle, every league I'm in that doesn't have a super flex, I'm begging for it. It's changed the whole way you play the game. And I'll also be honest with you, until I listened to last week's show, I didn't even realize we didn't play defenses or kickers. Like it's become so natural to me that I've got to play 2 quarterbacks and these other flexes and obviously the position groups. It's been super fun, and you kind of it makes you question the norms of all these leagues you've played in with friends and family and coworkers up to this point. Do I need a kicker? Do I need a defense? Maybe, maybe not. But having 2 quarterbacks, especially when you shouldn't be in a league with more than 12 people.
Yeah.
And at that point, you should all be able to have 2 starters. It's probably been my most enjoyable aspect of this league is this quarterback play and how important it is to have healthy guys that are going to deliver, every week, knowing that 8 out of the 32 starters are more than that are bums, and trying to not be the guy that ends up with a bum in the second quarterback slot, right? But that's been super fun. So I think in that essence, this team, with that alone in mind, is going to do solid. And there's potential here and there for you to play someone outside of a second quarterback, but with that group, it would be tough not to play Murray and Burrow or Murray and Jones week in and week out.
Yeah. All right, Jake, watch what you say. Like you said, he's just right upstairs.
I I think just everything we've said, it's a good team. Not even all biased aside, like this is, like you said, just a consistent team. Like it's there's just not there's error, but not too much room for error. And I think that he's he's gonna compete, and I could see this team going real far, if not all the way. So
I I will admit, I don't know how if I'll do it in the future, but I bought a subscription to Fantasy Pros because I wanted to try and compete and do well. Where it will likely end up with me being at is not subscribing potentially next year and trying to be smarter on my own. However, they do have this, projections that they try and say, and they really try and hedge their bets, in the sense of that, everyone right now is finishing within 2 wins of each other. So everyone's either going to be 8-6, 7-7, or 6-8. They've really hedged their bets against anyone doing super solid. But your dad is one of the top 2 teams. This team has a 15% chance of winning the championship. Definitely has super high odds of making the playoffs. And so I don't think that any of us are far off, according to the experts, either of having a shot at taking it all. If you wanted to know, Jake, you're 4 and Zach, you're 5. So
let's ride.
Yeah,
I'll see you boys in the playoffs. Where are you, Kyle?
So I won't be in the playoffs.
Hey, that's okay. We'll let you know what it's like from the top.
From the top. I appreciate
yeah, you can. We'll stream it for you. You can watch.
Thank you.
Sounds like we should make some deals before the deadline. I heard. I don't know about you, Jake.
Yeah.
I will be offloading anybody and everybody.
It's a buyer's market.
It will be. I appreciate you for coming on, Zach. Thank you for not only chatting through your team, but also chatting through Boyd's. I've thoroughly enjoyed, even though we have like 15 listeners and 12 of them are in the league. It's been a lot of fun talking to everybody week by week, kind of hearing their perspective, getting a chance to dive into not only their team but somebody else's, and kind of just get some perspectives on how things are going. I appreciate all the feedback and the comments, and I'm glad that you were able to join us.
Of course, if there's any opportunity for me to come on and rip your team, Kyle, please let me know. I'd be happy to be your first repeat joiner.
We should have Kyle, everyone on, and they just get a roast our teams.
I actually was thinking that might be what it is have everybody come on. If we can't do that, it'll just be a pre-recorded one. Just, you got 3 minutes. Just
we can write into
it. Go off.
And then we'll play them back to back to back.
The irony in your team name of barely trying, with the amount of you've clocked in the fantasy football and the caliber of your team deserves a roast in itself. But no,
it is deserved. It is well deserved. I just want it to be noted that, come 2024, 2025, my team will be flying. So we'll go from there.
Trying.
I'm excited for 2025 for you to tell me that by 2029 you're on the rise. Right?
It's the perpetual Mariners.
You're going to be the Mariners of the league. Absolutely. No, thank you both for having me on, and this is awesome. I've enjoyed hearing the person the week before have their team talked about. It's a really cool concept, so I'm excited to see what you guys keep doing. And thanks again for having me on. It was a blast.
Yeah. Take care.
Hey, good to meet you.
Have a great night.
Good to meet you, Jake. Tell your dad I say good luck. He's going to need it this week.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There we have it.
There we go. I really, truly, though, I have had so much fun having everybody come on so far. It's been a blast. I'm wanting it to happen every single week, and then it'll be fun. We could come the playoffs time, we could maybe shake things up and have returning guests be the guys that made the playoffs and be able to talk through things, from being in there. There is a few other things we have on the docket for tonight. I think that we have to talk through these. So while my actual fantasy football team in our league did not do great, the the league that you and I are in, just you and me, with this wheel of choosing players, my team dominated your team. It was a 126 to 83. I didn't include the decimals. I'm sorry. Things were rounded, but 126 to 83 thrashing.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Do we have this individual scores handy or no?
Yes. So let me just do this. I'm gonna need to just quickly change this browser to being something else, and we'll just have it be just
because
that.
I will say I'm not too surprised by that, but I would like to mine. I'm probably just gonna cut them because they're all dead to me, and I just need to reconvene on that. But yeah, not too surprised on that one. But luckily, it's a long season, and we have a redraft, so not too worried.
It's true. It is a redraft. For some reason, I cannot.
And look, I don't have to have any of those scrubs on my team ever again.
Ever again. Yeah, it's true. Let me see if this will work for me. It was not letting me open it up. There we go. Here's what I wanted. And I'll just zoom in just a little bit. If I know how to do this here.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that. You can just say no next time too, and I will accept that fully.
This is very small text. If I was more handy when it came to technology, you'd think that I would be. I would be able to zoom in on this. Unfortunately, I do not know how. So instead, I'm going to cheat, and I'm just going to make the font bigger.
Smart. You make this thing run, so I will not comment on any tech issues on our end.
Okay, sounds good. There we go. I figured it out. I was able to finally do this. It only took me, 3 minutes of time. So I had Mahomes, Kamara, Eckler, Hopkins, Kupp, Andrews, and Hines. You had Prescott, Harris, Ronald Jones, Adams, Ridley, Kittle, and Barkley. I think pretty right away, it's easy to see where some of this has to do with just a bit of bad luck when it came to, Prescott not having a great week in comparison to the week before. I don't think that's... I don't think week to week you wouldn't pick Dak Prescott. You would assume that he is going to have a decent week at least. 6 seems very, very low. We both had a running back not perform, and we both had a running back do a bit better. A big difference was Cooper Kupp happened to just have a lightning week and get 37 points. And that alone is a big lift. But, Barkley outperformed Hines in the flex spot, so that was definitely a win for you there.
Yeah, that was a bad... I gave you that advice. Good advice, I guess, on my end to secure a potential win, but that was not a good thing to follow there in the flex. It was a gamble, and you know what? You got a lot of available Colts to go with for future. So.
It's true. I actually, fun fact, tried to make some moves for Hines to just have in general. Based off of our conversation last week. I bought in, lucked out this week in not having him in the flex spot because the owner would not move on him. But that was, you now know how to get me to try and move on a player. You just say something and I'll just believe you.
Okay, good to know. I'm gonna use that sparingly though. Don't worry.
Yeah, not all the time. You don't want to do it all the time. Okay, so we got to pick teams this week. Last week, I totally messed up with the draft. We did not do it correctly, but we'll do it correctly this week. So I promise it will be on par with what it should be. Since you were the team that finished lower, I will let you have the first pick. And just a reminder, you cannot pick any of the guys that you've already had. So I've got the list, and I will run it down for you. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
So ready. Okay, here we go. So first spin. This is a very pretty wheel, by the way, with a very large ad on the right side. But hey, we're running with it. Your choice. No, there's no your choice option. You've got the Miami Dolphins.
We're gonna go Seki, tight end.
Ooh, he's not had a great season so far, but maybe this is the week he turns it around.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait till Tua's back to go any real offensive players.
Yeah, well, Waddle Fuller is back allegedly. There's
Was dead to me.
Yeah. All right, I have the Washington Redskins. Oh man, I would have said this was an easy choice for Gibson, but now with McKissick, it's not as easy. So I think I'm going to go with McLaurin.
And if it was weak, I mean, they weren't playing the Bills. Heineke might be a little bit of a sleeper pick there too.
Yeah, he did great last week. All right, I have the Seattle Seahawks. I have the Seattle Seahawks. I am going to take Wilson.
Okay, that's pretty smart. That's a good move. Okay.
Okay, and you're up. You have got the Lions.
When Hawkinson there, that's tough. We'll go Swift.
Go Swift. It's not a bad choice. It's not a bad choice. I think if I were to be picking anybody, it might have been Goff, might have been Swift. All right, Buffalo Bills. I am.
Is that me or is that you?
That's you. It is you. You are right. I keep messing this up. It doesn't go back and forth. It's Snake. This is you.
I'm gonna go Diggs.
Okay. Diggs it is. That's actually who I was going to be going with.
Way to maybe even out my Swift.
All right, Dallas Cowboys. Oh man. Again, this is one of those where I would have thought it was an easy option. I think it might still be. I'm going to go with Elliott. I think that the Cowboys have kind of shifted how they're using running backs, but I'm going to go for it. All right, you've got the Chargers. No, yeah, I have the Chargers. Again, I keep doing this.
The Chargers.
I'm so sorry.
You're trying.
I know. And I had Eckler last week. So I cannot pick Eckler. So let's see here. I could go with Cook as a tight end option. I think that there's also, Allen, and that's kind of the only two that I have because I don't think I want to pick up any of their backup running backs. I think I'm going to go with Allen. Just because I'm hoping I get a better spin for a tight end. All right, you've got the Eagles.
Eagles. Who do they play? Let's see here. They are playing the Cowboys. Oh boy, let's go. Oh, Deonta Smith. Did I say that right? I think that's him.
Okay. You're up again. You've got a flex spot, a running back, and a quarterback. And you've got the Denver Broncos.
Man, I feel like I'm just okay. I'm gonna go Teddy Bridgewater.
Bridgewater. This is the week he finally settles back into where he was projected to be.
Yeah, I
Lucky
mean,
you. All right, I have
we're
got the
gonna
Colts. Okay, well, I'm gonna go with Taylor. I think that's an easy, safe option as
Yeah.
opposed to a tight end. So
I gotta think they have a backup quarterback. I hope they do. So they're gonna be running the ball.
yeah, okay. And then we've got the Cleveland Browns. Let's see here. Who is somebody that I would want? That is either in the flex spot or as a tight end. To be honest, I can't. Oh, it's Austin Hooper, who we just talked about. I don't think I'm going to do that. Let's see here. I'm going to risk it. I'm going to go with Beckham and hope that he is back from injury in time for this to happen.
Okay.
Okay.
Needed that, so thank you. I need a little bit of question on your team.
Okay, you're up with the Dallas Cowboys. You've got a running back and a flex.
You have Elliott too. That doesn't matter, but I don't want to play him also. That's gonna be weird. I'll go Cooper in the flex.
It's not a bad choice. It's not a bad choice. He had a great week 1, not so great last week, but their entire offense didn't have a great week. Lastly, you've got your Indianapolis Colts. You've only got the running back position left. We happened to.
So I guess we're gonna have. Yeah, we're having an equal.
Taylors.
I'm gonna go. Unless I go Hines, I'm going Taylor. Put Taylor.
All right. Lastly, for me, I have got your choice. That's not a thing. We're spinning it again. I just like seeing the wheel spin more than anything else.
Fun.
All right. So we're going with the Miami Dolphins. So I guess I'm also having Gesicki. So we've got a couple duplicates this week. So the real differences we'll see come out in some of these other positions.
Wait, should we respin for our duplicate spots?
Maybe we should. Yeah, I think we should. We're we
have
we're
too many.
audibling. All right.
No matter what it rolls, you got to go with
first.
that position.
Your first running back. Arizona Cardinals.
Edmonds.
All right. I'm up next. Tight end. For the Rams, I'm going to be honest, I don't know who the Rams tight end is.
Higbee?
Is it Higbee? I think you are correct.
So.
It is Higbee. Higbee it is. I've always wanted him, rated him highly, and he's my guy.
That's better. I mean, I think he's above Gesicki. All right, so now I think we have to do them both though to be fair. I think I have to do Taylor and you have to do your running back, or I have to do my tight end now and you have to do your Taylor. Vice versa. Did I get that wrong?
Yeah. well, more than that, I had it wrong in that. Who did you pick? Who was your running back?
Edmonds.
Edmonds. That's correct. And I had Higby. So yeah, we can do that. So then your tight end pick is from the Jags.
I don't even know a tight end on the Jags.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I don't either.
Wow.
The tight ends are. Oh. Oh, whoops! I was on the wrong team. So that's less funny. I can't even name a single. My mind is drawing an absolute blank, and I can't think of a single Jaguars player.
Let's see.
Outside of,
tight end.
yeah. So you've got Hollister, O'Shaughnessy, Farrell, Manhertz, Sokol, and Flanagan. I'm pretty sure that Hollister is the number one. No, he is not.
I think Manhertz is. I'll go Manhertz.
You know, they really.
I think of a worse team than last week by a fair amount.
They really need to do a better job of the depth chart on Sleeper. Okay, and I had Taylor, and instead I will be stuck with a running back from the Tennessee Titans. You know, that's rough. Having to have Derrick Henry
against the Colts. I'm telling you, he's going to go off this week too. So
it's really hard for me to have that. Apologies in advance. Yeah, so that leaves us with the teams of Wilson, Elliott, Henry, McLaurin, Allen, Higbee, and Beckham versus Bridgewater, Swift, Edmonds, Diggs, Smith, Manhertz, and Cooper. I'm going to bask in it now, knowing full well that I'm still going to somehow lose this week, and all future weeks I'm going to be screwed out of any good players because I'm picking them all now. So
yeah,
I've had no balance of trying to like minimize the amount of players that I have going for me. So
it's hopefully I just don't keep drawing like repeated Broncos or something like that, because I feel like I'm using up the lower tier options. So we'll see if this works out. We're on two ends of the spectrum, and we'll see what the end of the year looks like.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. It's going to be super pretty. We're going to see that my early great picks will not pay off for me, and I need to start to space them out a bit. You know, I need to have better luck on the wheel. All right. Well, you know, we have one final thing that I wanted to talk about. We've also gone way over on our interviews the last 2 weeks and have not been able to throw in things like soccer in 6, or looking at you know, really fun TikToks. But we've got one last thing to chat through. You know,
Beautiful.
Zach kind of talked about it a little bit. You know, last week we talked about kickers. This week I want to talk about defenses. What do you think about team defense? Should you have it or no? And it'll kind of lead into our conversation next week where I want to chat through IDP.
Yes. Yeah, I guess I think I tend to go off topic, and I'm based on what Zach said. Sounds like we talked about defense too, but I know I did. So I probably just briefly go over what I said last week, being we also are pretty over. But I think again, it's something where in those regular snake draft leagues, like it's a factor where the people who don't follow football as much, it's harder for them to, it changes a little bit more frequently. A good defense only lasts a few years. a lot of times players are going to be more consistent. I think you might have to like know a little bit more about like football as a whole, but also the projections are right in front of you, so it's just another variable. I think. I mean, again, a little bit less consistent in the unless you're the number one, number two defense. A lot of times you play good offense and you're gonna just get slammed. So I think I said last week, in any league that I have a defense, it's I pick that based on matchups. So I don't keep a defense more than a couple weeks. If it happens to work out favorably for their schedule, then I will. But this time for me, I just defense is picked on a week by week basis off the waivers. So um I think Zach also said it really good where he said he hasn't even thought about defense in ours. I do not miss it whatsoever. I think I would rather fill it with a player. So um I'm cool with it's just another one uh, of those variables that I'd rather be frustrated with a specific player than a entire team's defense. It's a lot easier to boycott a single player than an entire defense.
Yeah, I mean, I would, echo basically that same sentiment. Again, with the league that we're in, with kind of some of the like roster acquisition quirks and salaries and things like that, like you said, you can't really depend on a defense to be consistent year over year. I think there's too many changes of where, like with an offensive player, a new quarterback comes in and that's going to vastly change things. And that's why most people don't play team offense, right? So, having two quality cornerbacks coming in or some defensive linemen come in or things like that, having those a single player can impact more than I think people kind of realize when it comes to team defense, in my opinion. And so it just changes the feel too much of where you're depending on 11 players remaining the same year over year, and there's going to be a lot of flexibility and shuffle through that. And so I think that for like a dynasty style of league, nobody's going to long term a defense. And with our structure of where if you drop somebody you're penalized, I felt like people were just going to be dropping defenses and picking up defenses fairly regularly, or it was just going to be one of those things where nobody cared about defense at all. It was never going to be a thing that people were really trying to be trading or moving, and so because of that, I just removed them. In redraft, with my family, I also didn't include kickers or defenses because I thought it was just too many things for people that are newer to have to think about. And I don't think that any of them have noticed or like realized or recognized that we don't have that. And instead I replaced them with offensive players. And I think everyone's more enjoying that because there is that more name recognition that they have with the offensive side of things. They don't have that in-depth defensive player knowledge. So I think for me, I think if you're going to do defense, you should just do individual defensive players. But I think that's a big lift for a lot of people to try and research, for more positions, basically of who's good, who's not good. I don't know these names, and it would really be based off a lot of like rankings as opposed to more than anything else.
Yeah, it is fun once every year when you hear that redemption story or that underdog moment where you won because your defense had 5 turnovers, and there's a kick return and they scored 40 points. Like that is really fun when it happens to you, but it also just like is a complete demoralizer when it happens against you, and that happens like once a year. So I mean that happens every week when the random player goes off, but yeah, it doesn't happen as frequently, so it's yeah.
Agreed. Well, I think that does it for this week. I'm excited to see what your dad has to say about his roster next week. It'll be a great episode, getting a different perspective. I think that he's one of the most experienced when it has come to dynasty or salary cap style of like auction drafts and things like that. So it'll be fun to kind of get his perspective on things and how he thought everything is gone and how he thinks about his team this year. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that convo, and I'm also looking forward to getting him set up with a Discord. That'll be just as interesting.
Just a lot of fun. A hoot, and a hanny. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in until this late in the podcast. Props to
Way
you.
to did it.
Sticking
Did it.
with us for an hour 45.
Y'all have a fantastic rest of your day, afternoon, evening. I'll see you next week. Thank you.